Denny Hamlin has raced against Kyle Busch for over 2 decades. They wrecked each other on the track. They argued publicly in front of cameras and crews. They fought for championships in some of the most intense, heated battles NASCAR has ever produced. These two men were rivals in every definition of the word. And when reporters approached Hamlin after the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway and asked him about Kyle Busch, one of the fiercest competitors he had ever lined up against, Hamlin could not finish a single sentence without stopping to wipe tears from his eyes. He reportedly had to pause multiple times during interviews because emotions kept overwhelming him. Witnesses described him stepping away from cameras entirely while trying to collect himself. That one image, that one moment from a man who competed against Kyle Busch harder than almost anyone else in this sport, tells you everything you need to understand about what this weekend meant to NASCAR and what Kyle Busch meant to the people inside that garage. Before a single lap was completed at Charlotte Motor Speedway, everyone inside the garage already knew this weekend was completely different from anything they had experienced before. Drivers were not going over strategy the way they normally do on a race Sunday. Crew members were not laughing or joking near the haulers the way they typically do before a big event. The usual competitive energy that fills a NASCAR Cup Series garage on race day, that sharp, focused, buzzing tension, had been replaced by something far heavier and far more personal. Kyle Busch had become unresponsive earlier in the week while preparing for the race in Charlotte. His family initially announced that he would be withdrawing from the Coca-Cola 600 due to severe illness. Then, on Thursday afternoon, came the announcement that genuinely stopped NASCAR in its tracks. Kyle Busch had passed away at just 41 years old. By Saturday, his family confirmed the cause of death, severe pneumonia that had escalated into sepsis, leading to organ failure. For a sport that had watched Kyle Busch compete at the absolute highest level for over 2 decades, 2 Cup Series championships, 63 Cup victories, and a record 234 wins across NASCAR's 3 National Series, processing that reality was something nobody was remotely prepared to do. Charlotte Motor Speedway sold out completely. More than 95,000 fans made their way to Concord, North Carolina, not simply to watch a race, but to be present for something larger. The atmosphere from the moment the gates opened was unlike any race day in recent memory. People were emotional before a single car even fired its engine. The weight of the week had settled over the entire speedway, and everybody felt it. What unfolded before the green flag was unlike anything NASCAR has put together in recent memory. NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell gathered with the Busch family in the infield, standing beside a black number 8 logo that had been painted directly into the grass near pit stall 3. Samantha Busch stood there alongside their children, Brexton and Lennox. Kyle's parents, Tom and Gay Busch, were present. And standing right beside them, visibly trying to hold himself together, was Kurt Busch, NASCAR Hall of Famer, former Cup Series champion, winner of the 2010 Coca-Cola 600, and Kyle's older brother. The entire starting field of 39 drivers stood behind the family in a unified show of support. That visual, every driver in the field standing as one behind the people Kyle loved most, was enough to break people before a single word had been spoken. O'Donnell delivered remarks that moved far beyond statistics and trophies. He spoke about who Kyle Busch was away from the racetrack, the competitor who quietly gave advice to younger teammates, who took the time to walk rivals through difficult corners, who did things for people when no cameras were rolling and no recognition was coming. "What I think we'll miss most isn't the wins," O'Donnell said. "It's the guy who quietly wanted to help a teammate or give some advice. It was the husband, the father, or the guy who quietly did things for others when no one was watching." He then turned directly to Samantha and her children. "Samantha, I want you to know that this sport stands with you, and that you and your children are NASCAR family forever. Brexton and Lennox, your dad loved you with all his heart. Everyone gathered here is your family. And we've got you." A rowdy chant broke from the grandstands in response. The Charlotte Fire Department pipe band then played Amazing Grace, and the entire speedway fell silent. 95,000 people stood together, absorbing a loss that went far beyond motorsport. The tributes continued onto the racetrack itself. Every car in the field carried a number 8 decal in Kyle's honor. Richard Childress Racing also announced that the number 8 would be officially retired and permanently set aside, unless Brexton Busch one day reaches the NASCAR Cup Series himself. That announcement hit fans particularly hard, because it forces you to think immediately about a young boy growing up with the weight and the pride of that number tied to his family's name forever. Then came the missing man formation. Pole sitter Tyler Reddick left the outside front row position completely empty as the field rolled around Charlotte ahead of the start. That empty space on a racetrack that Kyle Busch had dominated throughout his entire career was enough to bring grown adults in packed grandstands to tears. During lap 8, the Amazon Prime broadcast went completely silent. No commentary. No analysis. No voice talking over the engines. Just 40 cars circling the track while fans throughout the speedway held up 8 fingers in every section of the grandstands simultaneously. That moment will be replayed for decades in NASCAR history packages. Now, here is where the story becomes even more personal, because what was happening inside the Charlotte garage this weekend went significantly beyond what most fans watching the broadcast at home actually saw. Denny Hamlin reportedly could not hold himself together during media availability. He stopped mid-sentence multiple times. He stepped away from cameras on more than one occasion. People nearby described him wiping tears while trying to compose himself enough to continue speaking. Hamlin acknowledged publicly that despite every battle between them, there was always deep and genuine respect. He called Kyle one of the fiercest competitors NASCAR had ever produced. The fact that it was Hamlin specifically, the man who arguably fought Kyle Busch harder and more consistently than any other driver on the grid, saying these things publicly carries a weight that cannot be overstated. Joey Logano was visibly shaken during a live television interview, his voice cracking repeatedly as he tried to speak. He said that when you race someone like Kyle Busch for your entire career, you almost stop believing that person could ever not be there. You start assuming they are simply a permanent fixture of the sport. That assumption disappeared in an instant this week, and Logano was clearly struggling to process it in real time. Crew members near the interview area reportedly said Logano needed time away from cameras afterward because he was not able to hold his emotions together. Clint Bowyer, now a Fox Sports analyst and former NASCAR driver, had reportedly spoken with Kyle recently before the news broke. According to people near the Fox broadcast compound, Bowyer became emotional before going on air and staff members were consoling him during commercial breaks. Bowyer talked openly about Kyle's fire and intensity on the track, but also said that people outside the garage never fully understood how much Kyle Busch genuinely cared about the people around him. Brad Keselowski described the garage atmosphere in 2 words: silent and broken. He said many drivers were not able to fully focus on race preparation because the emotional weight of the situation was simply too overwhelming to set aside the way athletes are trained to do. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who had a complex, honest, and at times difficult relationship with Kyle throughout their careers, reportedly told colleagues something that captures Kyle Busch as precisely as anything said this entire weekend. Love him or hate him on the racetrack, you respected the greatness. That statement is accurate, complete, and says everything. Kyle Busch was polarizing throughout his career. He frustrated fans. He made rivals furious. He was direct, confident, and relentless in a way that divided audiences. He also made NASCAR unmissable for 2 full decades. Young rookie Connor Zilisch also spoke about how Kyle Busch was one of the primary reasons drivers of his generation dreamed of reaching NASCAR at all. That speaks to something significant. Kyle did not just shape veteran competitors. He influenced entire generations of drivers who grew up watching him race every Sunday. The Coca-Cola 600 itself endured 12 caution flags across nearly 5 hours of racing before rain ended the event 27 laps short of the full distance. And when it was over, the driver standing in victory lane was Daniel Suarez, one of Kyle Busch's closest protégés in the sport. Suarez took the lead late in the race after crew chief Ryan Sparks made the call for a 2-tire pit stop while the majority of the field took 4 tires. From there, Suarez held off Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Tyler Reddick, all of whom had significantly fresher rubber, to take the victory. In victory lane, Suarez could barely speak. He talked about the phone calls he and Kyle shared every single week, Kyle helping him understand car setups, work through specific corners, and develop as a driver at the highest level. He didn't have to help me, Suarez said. He didn't have to help this Mexican kid that can barely speak English. He was already a legend of the sport, and he took the time every single week to help me, and that for me spoke very, very highly of not who he is as a driver, but who he is as a person. And most people didn't know that side of him. I got to know that side of him, and honestly, because of those things, he made me want to be like him. Suarez also described the moment he saw Samantha Busch before the race. Seeing Samantha today for the first time, that totally broke my heart. I saw Brexton as well, and for a split second I grabbed him and I gave him a kiss on his head. There were so many emotions. I feel like when I jumped in the car, I wasn't ready. Kyle Busch finishes as NASCAR's all-time wins leader with 234 victories across the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Craftsman Truck Series. He won Cup Series championships in 2015 and 2019. He recorded 63 Cup victories. He competed in every series NASCAR offered at the highest possible level, and he won in all of them. The number 8 now sits retired at Richard Childress Racing, waiting to see if Brexton Busch ever comes to claim it. Every race going forward on the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series calendar is going to feel different. The garage is going to feel different. Sundays are going to feel different. The tribute at Charlotte, the missing man formation, the silence on lap 8, the family surrounded by an entire field of drivers, the 95,000 people standing completely still while bagpipes played, that is part of NASCAR history permanently now. If this story hit you the way it hit so many fans this weekend, hit the like button right now. It helps this channel reach more NASCAR fans who follow the sport week in and week out. If you are not already subscribed to NASCAR Unlocked, subscribe right now and join this community. Every subscriber genuinely matters as this channel grows. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. Where does Kyle Busch rank among the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time in your mind? What is the Kyle Busch moment or memory you will never forget? Let's talk about it.